Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Guy Dawson Show at the World Center of Broadcast Media, WCOBM.com. My name is Guy Dawson, and I am the managing member of Classic Communications, a full-service media and marketing company. And if you would like to bring greater recognition to your business, your organization, or yourself personally, please get in contact with us at 702-845-6129 or visit our website, classiccommunications.net. We are broadcasting to you live from the Gene Woods Racing Experience in fabulous Las Vegas, Nevada, just a stone throw.
Woo! You didn't get it.
From the Las Vegas Strip, hijacked again by the queen of all media, Carintha Turvalon.
Hello, it's so good to be back. Before we kind of jump into things, I just want to send a quick shout out to my very good friend Daisy. Do you know she lives lives very close to Amsterdam? She watches us with her morning coffee.
Does she really?
Yes, she does. So I just wanted to say a special shout out to my very special friend Daisy.
People are in Amsterdam watching us.
Yeah.
Boy.
Yeah.
Must be nice to be the queen of media, isn't it?
That's right.
Well, yes, we've been on a bit of a hiatus, and we are back, and I have my buddy Joseph Skoda in the studio. He's going to talk about Veterans Affairs, and he's also a fellow Toastmaster. Welcome to the show, Joseph.
Hey, I appreciate that very much, Guy. I want to send a shout out to my friends in Pismo Beach, California. Just a 7-hour drive, like a stone throw away to get here.
Yeah, right. It's a lot, but the weather's a lot better there than here.
The weather's in the 70s year-round, more or less. Unfortunately, the water's cold, but I enjoy traveling every chance I get. So thank you for inviting me to the show.
Yeah, that was one of the things. Is I was on vacation in Hawaii. It was the first time I've ever been there,
Yeah.
and the water was so warm. And I grew up in Southern California, where it's beautiful, but the water is just freezing. Even in it's probably pretty nice now out there because it's starting to get hot. But that was a big change that I noticed, is how much easier it was to swim and.
In bath water?
Yeah, it was beautiful. Yeah, it was wonderful. But I still love Cali, love Pismo Beach, and
Well, Southern Cal is a lot warmer than where I live. I had to give up scuba diving on the Central Coast. My body can't handle 50-degree water anymore.
even with wetsuit, you wear a wetsuit, right?
Well, yes, but I prefer the warmer weather, and they tell me I cannot find a mermaid in cold water. So I have to go where it's tropical. That's what I'm all about.
Mermaids are not all about the cold water.
No, I found one in Key West last year.
Oh.
I couldn't catch her, but next time, next year.
You know they have them in Vegas too, right?
They have mermaids in Vegas?
Yes, they do. I think at the Silverton they used to. I don't know if they still are anymore.
Yeah, they have a mermaid thing over there.
I'm going to learn
Get
something
yourself
new.
a mermaid before you leave town.
I don't mind if I do. You need the way. Right.
So tell us about the things that you've done as a veteran, and you were in the Air Force.
I'm retired Air Force. I retired after 21 years of service. Spent half my career overseas, from the Philippines and Okinawa, and even 2 years in Saudi Arabia, and then all over the country. But 21 years, and I'm retired out of Vandenberg Air Force Base as a military officer. And since then, I've been spending more and more of my time volunteering back at part of veterans organizations, where I've reached the commander level of the Disabled American Veterans and American Legion in Santa Maria, and involved with the VFW and so many other veterans groups. And I find a lot of people are looking for a home when they get out of the military. Too often, most military people get out, have to find work and jobs and support a family. I was fortunate enough where I was able to retire and stay retired. But I got bored. So I jumped in, started helping out and volunteering at the veterans organizations, worked myself into leadership, and helping more and more people fine-tune their skills or find their own purpose in life. As you know, so many veterans get out and are lost because society don't want them in some cases. In other cases, they don't even realize they have issues because they've been serving for so long, and now they have to take care of a family. Most veterans don't realize, for instance, post-traumatic stress. They don't have time to deal with that when you're working. You don't have time to worry about your back hurting or your knee hurting or headaches from time to time because you're supporting a family. And you just assume everyone has those problems. But it's when you get out and have free time on your hands, when you retire, or when you're hurt and can no longer work, things start happening in your mind, as they did mine. I was fortunate. I retired at the age of 39. I never had a job in my 40s, and just turned 50. So I'm really pleased about that. But it wasn't easy, because I had issues of my own I had to struggle with. And I think in veterans cases, in Toastmasters cases, and a lot of other situations, we need to find a mentor or a coach to help us get through the struggles of our lives. So that's where I'm at right now.
Yeah, I agree. And if there's one group that really deserves a lot of mentoring and help, and it's the veterans. Don't you agree? And your mom was military.
Absolutely. I was just gonna let you know, my mom actually retired after 20 years out here at Nellis.
Okay.
That's why I'm still here.
Okay.
But I mean, that whole lifestyle, right? I was dragged to Germany and England as a child.
Sure.
And that's where she was stationed. She worked in Manpower for many years.
Sure.
But that whole transition, she did have a hard time. As soon as she retired, she thought, oh, okay, I'm going to be okay not working for a while.
Sure.
And reality kind of hit us, and we were in dire straits for a little while until she could pull it together for us. But by that point, she was working 2 jobs to catch up.
Yes.
And I know that's not the first time you've heard that,
Not at all. Most of my early career, I've always had a part-time job. I was fortunate enough to be able to go to school and get a master's degree when I retired. And thanks to the GI Bill, I got my PhD in psychology. But it was a struggle. And like you said, I have 2 sons who are military brats, traveled all around the world. And
I'm one of those.
You're one of those?
Yes, I am.
I spent last night on Dallas Air Force Base,
Yeah.
which was great. My older son actually drives a shuttle bus for a local casino back home. And my younger son's in the Air Force serving in Tucson at the moment. So he's been to Korea and Kuwait and now in Tucson. And he's at the spot in his life right now. He has to decide, is he going to re-enlist or break free while he still can, now that he has a family he has to support. So he's struggling with those issues in his own head. He can ask me for advice all day long, but ultimately it's between him and his wife and what they decide is best for them. For me, the military I thought was best for me. I loved my job. But my marriages suffered because I was gone a lot, and I loved traveling. I loved deploying. I loved seeing what else the world had to offer, but my relationship suffered. And kudos to those that have strong marriages when it's all over. I know more often than not that's not the case. Very big struggle for a lot of us.
There are people who just love the military lifestyle, though.
Sure.
They just love being in the military, everything about it. Like you said, the travel and the camaraderie. And I know people like that, and they wouldn't trade their military experience for anything.
I'll tell you one thing. I have one brother who joined the Marines, one brother that joined the Army. They never stayed very long. They did their 1 tour or 2 tours and got out. I joined the Air Force, and they keep saying it's a better career field, a better military organization to be involved with, but I think it's the job or the career path that we choose. And I was fortunate enough to change jobs, I think 4 times in my career, so I didn't have to stay stagnant. So for me, I would go back in tomorrow if I could. Of course, as you get older, you have disabilities, you're falling apart. It's more mental. But they keep saying, give an old guy a gun and let him fight because the kids are grown. He's retired, he wants to go out there and still have a purpose in life. And I think it was a great way for me. But I did turn down a scholarship to Ohio State to join the Air Force. So it took me a long time to get my degree afterwards. But joining organizations, for instance, the American Legion. American Legion started in 1919. It started in Paris, France. And Teddy Roosevelt's son, Teddy Roosevelt Jr., just finished World War I. He was a lieutenant colonel, and all of his friends, they all looking for something else to do. Keep the camaraderie strong, keep the pride in your nation, proud, winning a war. So they developed the American Legion to help veterans who were at war. And then 3 months later, they went to the second meeting, happened to be in St. Louis, Missouri in 1919. They said, American Legion, that's a great name. And we've grown into thousands around the world. not only every 50 states, we have American Legion in Canada, Mexico, Philippines, and of course Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico. So we have 55 different places around that we get. But to join the American Legion, you must have served during a war, at least some kind of conflict. The veterans of foreign wars is obviously you had to serve overseas. And then we have the disabled American veterans, which came out in 1921. I'm also the commander back home. And we're looking for those that have a disability of some sort. Could be post-traumatic stress or shell shock, as they call it once upon a time. Might hurt your knee, your back, have recurring nightmares. It goes on. And a lot of veterans are stubborn. And we don't realize we have problems until sometimes it's too late. I work with a lot of 70, 80-year-old veterans trying to get their benefits for the first time. I help people file because they went to work, they had jobs, they had to support their family, or maybe they applied for benefits in the 70s or 80s and were denied. Not realizing you can apply again, rules change, secret records have been opened up, and now we know more of the issues that we had or didn't have before. So we're coming to them, but the problem with somebody waiting so long to apply, they forget. How often we forget what we had for breakfast this morning, let alone 20, 30, 50 years ago for some of these guys. And that's a struggle.
Oh yeah, and I can imagine too, because I've had some family members. My uncle was going through, he's a veteran as well, and he was applying for some benefits and some stuff. And he actually works for the VA hospital now, as well as my auntie too. But it's interesting because he showed me some of the documentation, and I'm like, are you kidding me? These applications are intense because the government doesn't just want to give their money away. Can you kind of speak to?
Quite a bit. I just recently started working, helping people file their claims because it was hard. It took me a long time to get mine, and even my appeal took 5 years. Long time to get money that's owed you. Problems we have. My own brother took him about 8 years to get money, and it's a struggle, and it's very difficult. And now we have people to help you do those jobs, but if you go into a counselor or a veteran service officer say, please help me, you need to have your supporting evidence with you, your documentation, because the VA and those service officers are overworked and they're not going to research for you. So it's your job to get your medical records, get your research done, so it's easier for them to file for you. And we run into that a lot. People don't know what they don't know. And we don't know what chemicals were around back in the day. Even, sure, we hear about Agent Orange in Vietnam, of course. But not only was there, it was in Thailand, it was in Guam, and it came over, they were shipped out of California. So there's people touch these chemicals every step of the way. Don't think you had to serve overseas to have benefits. A lot of people in America never left, but they were affected in different ways.
Yeah, I had an opportunity for a couple of years to write for a publication in town. It's called Veterans Reporter. And it was really interesting. I was doing mostly business features about veterans who had gone into business.
Sure.
But it was interesting to learn more about the military community. And really how it's a family. If you haven't been, because I never served in the military. My father was in the Air Force, and he was a quickie, like you said, like your brothers, where he did his 4 and he got out. He wasn't interested in a lifestyle in the military. But I've got some friends. A friend of mine, Mary Perry, she just ran for Congress here. She's a retired military. And I met a lot of people writing for that publication, and it was interesting where they would talk about the community that you have. In the military, where it's you have your own family, basically your own city and community within the community that you live in.
Absolutely. Just a few years ago, my first station was at Clark Air Base in the Philippines in the late 80s. And a few years ago, someone contacted a lot of us that were stationed there together to have a reunion. And our first reunion was here in Las Vegas. Second reunion was in the Philippines. And just a few months ago, I was in the Philippines with about might have been 20 or 30 of us. Most of them were stationed there at different times. I probably only knew one person, but we all had something in common. We were there, we saw the way the people lived and how they welcomed us as Americans. That was one of my favorite cultures. Of course, I was 18 years old over there, and it was just an eye-opener, like, wow, people live like this? It was crazy, but we went, the mayor opened up the city for us. He had a roast pig and all the fixings and took care of us, and they showed us a little video of what they're doing with the base and how it's improved, how it's come a long way from Mount Pinatubo back then, how it reopened to international trade. So, like you said, as a family within a family, there's little reunions all around the world where people get together just for those purposes. It's a lot of fun.
It's funny you speak to that. I actually just reconnected with someone who I went to middle school with, and her parents were stationed in England, and my mom was too, and so we became friends at the middle school on base. And it's so crazy because I just reached out to her recently. I needed a 6th bridesmaid, and she's like, yes.
I love it.
You know, but we haven't seen each other since the 6th grade. But you know, like, we got on the phone and started catching up. But it's just it speaks to that sense of family that you develop with each other, because you know, she lived, you know, we both lived on base, you know, it's, you develop those family connections because your family's so far away, you know.
That's a good point. Not just the military members themselves have a family, the children do also. My son has a friend in Alaska he still keeps in touch with today. They went to school, I think South Carolina, I don't even know. It doesn't matter, but those are lifelong friends they developed from traveling the world. And it's a little bit easier for them to make friends because they're used to moving every few years. But it's also a struggle because they lose those friends for a short period of time and have to start all over again. So even though I loved my career, it was a blessing and a curse at the same time for the family.
Absolutely. My kind of a case in point to that, you know, it was funny because I was talking with her, and she was saying how her parents took her to Guam. And then she ended up having very interrupted high school life. And for me, my mom, actually, the reason why she retired in Nellis, she actually could have went to Korea, but she ended up retiring at Nellis because she wanted my high school to be all the same 4 years in one place, because she knew that. Yeah, and I was very lucky. I was talking to my friend. She was like, I'm so jealous. I had to make friends every 6 months or something crazy like that. Like, she ended up going to high school for 2 years one place, 6 months another place, something like that.
Well, 1 year,
it's crazy.
We were in Tucson, and my son changed schools 4 times that 1 year. Because you get there, you're living off base, and then you move to another neighborhood, then you're living on base, and you have to change schools every time you move to a different area. 4 times in 1 year. I'm surprised he still talks to me today.
That is rough, though, because you're at that age where everything is drama. You know, that's how it is when you're a teenager.
That's how it is when you're a teenager.
Your hormones are all over the place.
Well, we'll talk about the mermaids later. It's a pretty good deal.
Being an advocate for veterans, I bet you make a lot of friends.
You would think so. I've got my benefits. And people look at me, you're so young and you're getting your benefits, you're getting your retirement. There's a lot of people who are a little bitter also because they didn't stay in or didn't follow through with applying for benefits. I have friends, a lot of friends that in leadership, like you know with Toastmasters and some other things. We make friends with those that want to volunteer, that those want to be involved. But you also got those that want to sit at the bar and say, leave me alone.
Right? Yeah, well.
We get that a lot. But I love it. Part of the American Legion, we have 4 pillars. And the pillars, national security, obviously a real important one. People learn the Constitution and how to keep our borders safe. That's real important. We also got the top one, veterans and vocational rehab. We want to make sure the veterans are maybe getting physical therapy or learning to go back to school. And we've also got Americanism. There are a lot of veterans who are not even American citizens. They either drafted overseas or came here and got their green cards, but they never followed through with their citizenship, so we help them. and youth, children and youth. Real recently in California, I think every state, we have a boy state program. And in California, we sent them to Sacramento. We sent 1,000 children this past year, 1,000 boys, teenage boys, to learn how to set up a government. So they learn how to select a governor, select the mayor, a dog catcher, the sheriff, chief of police. They start a whole government, and then they develop a budget. You know, a lot of us can't balance our own checkbooks, but they develop a budget, and then they can understand. That's just sort of join the military and find out what patriotism is all about. But learn how the government is supposed to work, and that's pretty important. So that's one of the things we support.
Yeah, we appreciate you stopping by, Joseph, and continuing to support the veterans. They are a group of people that deserves all of our support, and yeah, we really appreciate you stopping by.
All right, thank you very much. Hey, Joseph Scott.
So, Corintha, we've got an interesting segment coming up.
Yes, absolutely. We will be introducing my friend Oja, and he's here to talk to us about Earthships.
Wonderful. Stay tuned for more of the Guy Dawson Show.